As public suspicion grew and investigators failed to name a suspect, the Ramsey family made a pivotal move, shifting from silence to a strategic media defense. They hired high-profile lawyers, PR experts, and even private investigators to control the narrative. This wasn't just about protecting their image. It was about survival in a country where public opinion often shapes justice. Jon and Patsy appeared on talk shows, spoke to journalists, and insisted on their innocence. They even published a book titled The Death of Innocence. But critics argued that their media campaign was less about truth and more about distraction. Why go public instead of cooperating fully with police? Their controlled TV appearances carefully avoided any new information. Instead, they focused on redirecting attention to the idea of an unknown intruder. This shift created two Americas, one that believed the Ramseys were victims and another that believed they were hiding something. Meanwhile, Burke was kept out of the public eye, intensifying curiosity about his role. The family's media efforts bought them time and sympathy, but it also made people wonder, were they trying to help the case or bury the truth? As months turned into years and the mystery remained unsolved, the public stopped waiting for answers from law enforcement. Instead, they became the detectives. Message boards, early internet forums, and tabloid TV shows exploded with theories, some logical, some wild. Who wrote the ransom note? Could Burke really have struck his sister in a moment of rage? Was there truly an intruder? One corner of the internet was convinced the Ramseys were hiding a dark family secret. Another camp insisted the media had created a witch hunt. These online battles drew in millions. What made it worse? Investigators released very little to the public. The vacuum of information was quickly filled with speculation. In a way, the JonBenét case became America's first internet-era true crime phenomenon, with thousands of ordinary people trying to solve it from behind their screens. Theories became more elaborate. Some studied handwriting samples, others examined old photos for signs of bruising or stress. Everyone wanted to be the one to crack the code. But as voices grew louder, the truth was drowned in noise. And in the chaos, one small question kept repeating itself: what if we've all been looking at this case the wrong way? Years passed, and many believed the case would never be solved. But then came a glimmer of hope: DNA evidence. In 2008, a breakthrough emerged. A lab found male DNA on JonBenét's long johns and beneath her fingernails. And it didn't match any family member. This changed everything. For years, suspicion had hovered over the Ramseys. But now some investigators said this points to an unknown male. Maybe the parents were telling the truth all along. Jon and Patsy Ramsey were officially cleared. Still, for the public, the scars remained. The DNA evidence reignited the mystery. If not the family, then who? Was there really an intruder? Had the police missed something critical in those first 48 hours? This new clue gave life to cold theories, but also raised a troubling question: why hadn't this been discovered earlier? Had the investigation failed JonBenét from the very start? Once the Ramsey family was officially cleared, the focus shifted. If it wasn't the parents, then who else could it be? The internet exploded with theories. From neighbors to drifters to delivery people, suddenly everyone was a suspect. One name surfaced again and again: Bill McReynolds, a man who played Santa Claus at the Ramseys' home. He had been kind to JonBenét and even gave her a special gift. Some thought he was too attached to her. Others pointed to his bizarre writings and past trauma involving children. Then there was Michael Helgoth, a man with a troubled past who allegedly bragged about being involved in a big job around the time of JonBenét's murder. He died in an apparent suicide not long after the murder, fueling conspiracy theories. But none of the evidence ever truly stuck. Was law enforcement chasing shadows? Were these theories simply the public's attempt to make sense of the senseless? As suspicion expanded beyond the Ramseys, one theory gained traction: the intruder theory. Could someone have broken into the house that night? Supporters of this theory pointed to several clues: an open basement window, an unidentified boot print near JonBenét's body, and a partial palm print on the doorframe. There was also unknown male DNA found on JonBenét's clothing, DNA that didn't match any member of the Ramsey family. Experts argued that the nature of the injuries and the presence of duct tape and cord suggested a sexually motivated crime, something more likely done by a stranger. Critics, however, questioned how an intruder could have written a long ransom note inside the house without waking anyone up. Why would a kidnapper kill the child instead of taking her? And how did this person get in and out of a heavily secured home unnoticed? Still, in 2008, Boulder District Attorney Mary Lacey publicly apologized to the Ramsey family and stated the DNA evidence supported the intruder theory. To many, that was the moment the case truly shifted, but was it enough? The discovery of unidentified male DNA on JonBenét's clothing became the centerpiece of the intruder theory. Collected from her underwear and long johns, this DNA didn't match anyone in the Ramsey household. At first glance, it seemed like solid proof an outsider must have been there. But the situation was more complicated. Some experts warned the DNA could have come from contamination during manufacturing or handling. Others suggested that while the DNA is compelling, it wasn't found in areas like under JonBenét's fingernails where you'd expect defensive evidence. Still, the DNA was used in 2008 to officially clear the Ramsey family. District Attorney Mary Lacey's decision was controversial. Critics argued it was premature and lacked conclusive support. Even the FBI questioned the reliability of that conclusion. So while the DNA pointed away from the Ramseys, it didn't necessarily point directly to someone else. It became both a breakthrough and a blind alley. One of the most puzzling pieces of evidence was the ransom note found in the Ramsey home. It was unusually long, over 2,300 words, and written on a notepad found downstairs. The note demanded $118,000 for JonBenét's safe return, a sum that strangely matched the Ramseys' Christmas bonus that year. Experts analyzed the handwriting, tone, and language. Some believed the note was staged to mislead investigators. It contained odd phrases and unusual punctuation, unlike typical ransom demands. There were also spelling errors and a strange insistence on anonymity. The timing of the note's discovery and the fact it was written inside the house raised suspicions about its authenticity. Could the note have been written by someone close to the family or even JonBenét herself? Others argued it was written by an outsider trying to cover their tracks. Despite decades of analysis, the true author of the ransom note remains a mystery and a key to understanding what really happened. The Ramsey family was thrown into the harsh spotlight of public scrutiny immediately after JonBenét's disappearance. The parents, John and Patsy Ramsey, faced intense media attention, suspicion, and sometimes hostility. Their grief was on display for the entire world to see, but many questioned their behavior. Some found their composure too calm, even cold, leading to rumors and accusations. Family friends defended them, describing their shock and heartbreak as genuine. Meanwhile, the media and public debates created a toxic atmosphere, fueling conspiracy theories. The siblings, Burke and John Andrew, were shielded from much of the chaos but grew up under the heavy shadow of the tragedy. The pressure on the Ramseys was immense, and it deeply affected their lives and the investigation itself. The family's public image became a battleground of opinions and assumptions. In the end, the question remained, were they grieving parents or something more? The initial police response to JonBenét's disappearance was chaotic and controversial. Officers arrived quickly but made several critical errors that complicated the case. The crime scene wasn't secured properly, allowing friends and family to move around the house. Important evidence was contaminated or lost, which hindered the investigation. Detectives initially treated the case as a possible kidnapping but soon shifted to a suspicious death investigation. Interviews with the Ramsey family and close acquaintances were intense but sometimes inconsistent. Some officers believed the parents might be involved, while others thought an intruder was responsible. The lack of clear protocol and rushed actions caused confusion and delays. These early mistakes sparked public distrust and fueled speculation about the family's role. Despite these problems, the police continued their search for answers amid mounting pressure. The autopsy of JonBenét Ramsey revealed shocking details that only deepened the mystery. She had a fractured skull, and her cause of death was determined to be strangulation by a garrote. Additionally, signs of a blow to the head were evident, raising questions about the timeline of events. Medical examiners debated the exact time of death, which impacted the investigation's direction. Some experts suggested the injuries could have happened accidentally, while others insisted they were deliberate. The presence of stomach contents indicated JonBenét had eaten shortly before her death. These medical findings both clarified and complicated the case, leaving room for multiple theories. The report's release was met with public shock and media frenzy. It also intensified scrutiny on the Ramsey family, as the violent nature of the death shocked everyone. Ultimately, the autopsy became a key piece of evidence, but one that raised more questions than answers.